Let me give you one piece of advice before we get into today's story. Be very careful about buying decorative items online, especially ones that claim to bring good energy into your home, because you have absolutely no idea what kind of history those objects carry, what hands they've passed through, what spaces they've sat in before they arrived on your doorstep. Bring the wrong thing home, and it doesn't just fail to protect you, it invites something in. This is something I learned the hard way, and it cost me more than I expected. This happened in May of this year. I was living with my boyfriend Daniel in a small rented apartment in Portland, Oregon. We'd been together for a while, and things between us were good. Genuinely good. We were both busy with our careers, but our life together had a rhythm to it. Comfortable, steady, the kind of life where you start assuming things will just keep going the way they are. Then our landlord called. He was having financial problems and needed to sell the unit. He paid us a break lease fee, which was fair, but the timing was terrible. We scrambled to look at nearby places. We toured several apartments, but nothing quite fit. I'll be honest, I'm particular when it comes to rentals. I pay attention to the feel of a space, the history of it. I don't like places that have been cycled through too many different tenants. The energy in those spaces tends to be unsettled. Daniel is not a patient person, and the clock was running out on our current lease. He found a loft-style unit on the 12th floor of a building just a few blocks away and pushed us to take it. It wasn't what I would have chosen on my own. The previous tenants had been a couple, both school teachers, who had lived there for years. The place was worn down, not maintained the way it should have been. Dirty in that specific way that comes from people who just stop caring about a space they don't own. We did a quick clean and moved in. Almost immediately, something felt wrong. Within the first few weeks, I started feeling this low, persistent heaviness, a tightness in my chest I couldn't explain. I became irritable in ways I didn't recognize in myself. At first, I told myself it was just the stress of moving, of adjusting to a new space. But it didn't go away. It got worse. Work started going sideways, little problems stacking up into bigger ones. And most noticeably, Daniel and I started fighting. Not the small disagreements every couple has. Real arguments. Sharp words neither of us would normally say to each other. Things that leave marks. One night, after a fight that started over something completely trivial, Daniel stormed out and didn't come back until after 2 a.m. Our unit was on the 12th floor. When Daniel got back that night and stepped into the elevator, it rose to the 2nd floor. And then the doors opened by themselves. He pressed the close button. The doors didn't respond. They just sat open, then closed, then opened again. Over and over, like someone outside was repeatedly pressing the call button, except nobody was there. The button panel light flickered. The doors kept cycling. Daniel stood there staring at it, not knowing what to do. He lit a cigarette right there in the elevator lobby and just started cursing at the empty hallway. Loudly. He said it felt like the only thing he could think to do. After 2 or 3 minutes, the elevator finally went back to normal. He rode up to the 12th floor alone and came through our door looking like he'd aged 5 years. His face was completely white, cold sweat on his forehead. He sat down on the couch and told me everything. I listened, and as he talked, I felt that cold feeling spread down my spine. Because for the first time since we'd moved in, I connected all of it. The heaviness, the irritability, the arguments, the job problems. None of it had existed before this apartment. Something was wrong with this place. The next day, I told my older sister, Rachel, everything that had been happening. She knew someone, a friend of hers, who was knowledgeable about the energy of spaces. Rachel brought her over that same afternoon. The woman walked through the apartment slowly and carefully, taking her time in each room. Then she told me the issue. The building directly across from ours had a sharp corner angle pointing directly at our unit. A layout that, according to what she understood about environmental energy, creates an unfavorable field for anyone living inside it. She said it wasn't catastrophic, fixable. She performed a space-clearing ritual through the apartment and then recommended I hang 2 small mirrors, one on the outside of the front door, one facing outward on the balcony glass, to redirect the energy back. I was skeptical, but I figured it cost nothing to try. Strange thing is, it worked. Within a week, Daniel and I started getting along again. The heaviness in the apartment lightened noticeably. The fight stopped. Things felt more like themselves again. About a month after that, I was scrolling on my phone one night and came across a video of someone's apartment entryway decorated with a pair of small stone lion figurines. They were cute, palm-sized, carved out of pale gray stone. The person in the video said they were a traditional symbol of home protection. I didn't think twice. I found the same ones online and ordered them immediately. When they arrived, I placed them right at the inside of our front door like little guardians. That same week, Daniel and I started fighting again. Worse than before. The arguments came faster, burned hotter, and lasted longer. The warmth we'd gotten back disappeared overnight. We stopped talking. He moved to sleeping upstairs in the loft. I stayed downstairs. The apartment went cold in a way that had nothing to do with the thermostat. One night I was on my phone late, exhausted, and drifted off mid-scroll. Sometime in the deep of the night, I felt something. A presence hovering above me. Heavy. Close. I opened my eyes. A woman was floating directly over my bed. Long black hair hanging loose around her face. Black clothing. Her expression was completely wrong, twisted and distorted in a way that belonged in a horror film, not in my bedroom at 2 a.m. My entire body locked up. I couldn't move a muscle, couldn't make a sound. I just lay there, completely frozen, staring up at her. I'd read enough about sleep paralysis and what people call being pinned by a presence to know what was happening. I closed my eyes and began quietly reciting every prayer I could remember. Then I focused everything I had on moving my thumb, just my thumb, the way I'd once seen described in a video. Slowly, feeling came back. First my hand, then my arm, then the rest of me. When I could finally move, she was gone. I lay awake in the dark for a long time after that. In the morning, I called Rachel's friend immediately and described what had happened. She didn't hesitate. She told me the small stone lions needed to go, right away. She explained an old folk belief I had never heard before. Large stone lions guard homes, but small ones, those are placed at graves. By bringing them inside, I hadn't invited protection. I'd invited whatever had been passing by our door to come in and make itself comfortable. She told me to take them outside the building entirely, not just outside the unit, and leave them in the flower bed near the main entrance, away from any residential space. She walked me through exactly how to handle them on the way out. I did exactly what she said that same afternoon. Daniel and I broke up not long after. I moved out of that apartment and haven't been back. I still think about it sometimes. Whether things between us would have gone differently if I'd never bought those figurines. Whether the apartment itself was always the problem, or whether I made it worse by bringing something in that didn't belong there. And I still think about the woman floating above my bed that night. In a strange way, I don't think she meant to scare me. I think she just followed the welcome sign I'd accidentally put up at the door.